Welcome to today's edition of the Rush 24/7 podcast.
Hey, all of you leftists that are totally absorbed with Trump hatred, hang in there. I'm going to help you out today. I'm going to be able to walk you off the ledge if you want to be walked off the ledge.
Live from the Southern Command in sunny South Florida, it's...
If you want to jump, go ahead, but I'm going to walk you back. Can you imagine the distress? I mean, you want to talk about karma? Yesterday, Hillary Clinton shows up at some, I don't know, the opening of some play on Broadway. Do you know she still has to be assisted walking? I looked at the video. She doesn't really walk. She kind of shuffles out there. But some guy walked her about 1/4 of the way to the podium. She was introduced by whoever the MC was as Hillary Rodham Beyonce Clinton. And the place went nuts. You know what Hillary did? Among other, she blamed the voters for her defeat. She said the voters are a bunch of misogynists, and that's why she lost. And then you know what she did? She called for airstrikes in Syria. Why would she do this? She obviously didn't think Trump would ever do it, so she's calling for airstrikes in Syria to take out the chemical weapons stocks of Bashar al-Assad. And then Trump does it, and she's... all the people that love Hillary, you talk about conflicted. Then you have Pelosi out there echoing Hillary's. It's a great move. Schumer said it's a great move, and leftists are on the ledges of every high building they can find today. They're looking at being sold out and betrayed by elected officials who are supposed to resist Trump no matter what he does. It doesn't matter. Resist, resist, resist. And now they're climbing all over themselves to be supportive of Trump. And there just has to be tremendous amount of angst out there, and in the drive-by media as well. It's great to be with you, my friends. Rush Limbaugh behind the golden EIB microphone. We are right here, the distinguished and prestigious Limbaugh Institute for Anti-Leftist Studies. The telephone number, and it's open line Friday, so you can talk about anything you want. 800-282-2882. If you want to send an email, I look at them. I check the subject line. I mean, we get multiple thousands a day. It's impossible to even read them all. So I subject line hunt. That's how I find ones that I think might be interesting. And sometimes you hit gold. You never know. That address, lrushvo@eibnet.us. What a week, friends. What a week. President Trump's claims about being monitored by the Obama regime have been vindicated. Susan Rice and a number of other regime specialists assured people back in January that Obama had gotten rid of every chemical weapon in Syria. She assured everybody that Obama's a tough guy. He wasn't going to take anything for granted. He ordered Bashar Assad to get rid of it, and Bashar Assad did. Susan Rice wanted us to believe that Bashar al-Assad and Putin both wilted in the intense pressure exerted by Barack Hussein O. We find out that was a flat-out, ever-loving joke. Just like when Obama told us that he told Putin to stop spying on the American elections. You know what he told Putin to do? He said, cut it out. And Putin said, oh, my God, I'm scared to death. He just told me to cut it out. And supposedly Putin did. But if you listen to Democrats today, Putin didn't cut it out. He continued. So Trump's claims about being monitored were vindicated. And then the Democrats refused to confirm Gorsuch, but then Gorsuch was confirmed anyway. Just happened. Rand Paul, by the way, ended up being the 51st vote. And throughout the vote, CNN was holding out hope that something would happen, like Assad would bomb the Capitol or anything to stop the... you should see them during the count. You could see they were holding out hope that something would happen to prevent Gorsuch from being confirmed. but he was. Trump, the supposed Putin lover, Trump supposedly in the tank for Putin, Trump supposedly co-opted by Putin, Trump supposedly aligned with Putin, attacks Russia's client state, Syria. And now this morning we see Trump's comments about Sweden's Muslims problems being vindicated once again. Trump lobs the grenade that Obama's spying on him. Media has a conniption fit, says it can't be true. Trump's deranged, turns out to be true. Trump notes what's going on in Syria and rather Sweden with terror attacks, and they laugh at him. He's making it up. He doesn't know what he's talking about. The guy's dangerous, and yet another terror attack today in Sweden. It was announced by the Swedish government as a terror attack. The drive-by media now questioning the sanity of the Swedish leader. Only 2 people were killed. Who says it's terrorism? They don't want Trump to be right about anything. So it's been a typical week. Trump does and says things that are impugned and criticized and laughed at and made fun of, and in the end, Trump is generally proven to be right about this. Speaking of Syria, we need to remember the same Obama administration that said they forced Assad to give up all of his chemical weapons. Remember now, this is the same Obama administration that claimed the Iran deal will keep Iran from ever getting a nuclear bomb. How are you feeling about that now, folks? I'm not making it up. Susan Rice back in January assured everybody that everything was fine, that we had forced Assad to get rid of all the chemical weapons and the chlorine gas and weapons of mass destruction. Obviously, Assad didn't, laughing at Obama all the way. And Obama is the same guy that tells us that the Iranians will not be developing a nuclear weapon. Now, folks, when pondering the reaction of the left, I know that there are many Trump, well, I don't know it's many, but I know there's some Trump voters that feel very betrayed. I mean, you're a big Trump supporter. You feel betrayed by this? You do not. You were a big Trump supporter. Do you feel betrayed by this? There are some who now want Trump impeached. There are some Trump supporters that think he's totally betrayed them. He led them to believe that the days of the United States involving itself in other nations' wars were over. We weren't going to do it. We weren't going to waste the money. We weren't going to be distracted. Now Trump's done it, and they're feeling totally betrayed. And I have a sample piece written by a Trump supporter feeling betrayed to share with us. We're going to cover all angles of this. But the fascinating thing to me, and the most interesting thing to me, is the reaction of the insane left. Because, every day they tell themselves that they're scoring points and that they're getting ever closer to forcing Trump out of office. They live not in reality. They live in an alternate reality that they create. And every day they allow themselves to believe that they're getting closer and closer and closer to getting rid of Trump. When you ponder the reactions of the left to what Trump... How about this? So Trump orders the attack and then promptly sits down to dinner with the Chi-Com leader. Have you... Folks, now let me say, this is important. Have you seen the pictures from Mar-a-Lago? I don't care which pictures. There's lots of pictures. Have you seen the pictures of Trump sitting next to the Chi-Com leader and his wife, Trump and Melania there? In every one of those pictures last night, the Chi-Com leader is smiling and looks happy, and everybody knows these pictures were taken after we launched the attack on Syria. So nobody has to say a word. All the caption has to be, following the president's launching of 59 Tomahawk missiles and a chemical weapons stock in Syria, the Chi-Com leader, Xi Jinping, and Donald Trump enjoyed dinner. And the picture is everybody laughing and smiling, and it makes it look like the Chi-Com leader's all in for this, whether he is or not. This is not accidental. This is not happenstance. I think this is very clever. Some might say brilliant. But remember, I'm trying to keep the leftists from jumping off the ledge today. So I'm going to refrain my compliments, Trump, so as not to drive them even battier. But Trump orders the launch and then goes in and has dinner at the very opulent dining room at Mar-a-Lago. You've seen the flower bouquet alone. The flower bouquet alone would make a great midfield logo for an NFL football game. It's that big. It must have taken 4 greenhouses to provide the flowers in the one table. It's huge. It's red and yellow roses, a bunch of baby's breath in there, and even some pansies. Well, you know, when you're president, you have to acknowledge everybody. So you put everybody's favorite flower in there. But the Chi-Com guy laughing, I'm not kidding. The Chi-Com guy smiling and laughing, whether it's about the attack or not, doesn't matter. All you have to do is caption the picture with the right type line. So you have that. You have this whole idea that Trump and Putin are in bed. And now Trump has attacked one of the key client states of Putin, and Putin's mad. By the way, there is a Russian warship headed to the area where our destroyers launched the missiles. Putin's got one of his ragtag destroyers chugging toward the region where our destroyers launched. He's a day late, but he's making a show of it. Well, our destroyer isn't there anymore. They've gotten the hell out of there. Let him, okay, bring it. You say bring it. But what is this dude, all these leftists who have this alternative reality where they have convinced themselves that Trump and Putin are inseparable, that they are aligned against the United States, that Putin and Trump rigged the election and stole it from Mrs. Clinton, and now here is Trump taking it to his bro, taking it to his bud, Vlad Putin. They say it's fake news, it's just theater, then it's just more insanity. It's exactly what I know, but it's just, I'm just telling you, they create this alternative reality. Whatever, they're not planted in the ground. So here, the thing, when you ponder the left's reaction, I was doing this all last night. I was actually enjoying this last night, and I was getting emails from all quarters. I was getting emails from people who are angry, feel betrayed, think Trump should be impeached. I got emails from people that's the greatest thing. This established him finally as the real president. We're back. I can't tell you the number of emails I got from people who were proud that America's behaving with strength again and resolve. You know something? Folks, I'm going to tell you something. Those of you, and I may insult you here. I don't mean to be insulting you because it really not is aimed at you. But I think there were a lot of people on our side, I mean, conservative/Republican, people that voted for Trump, I think they were shocked that Trump took this action for a whole host of reasons. But, you know, one of the reasons I believe things happen subtly. The conditioning of the human mind and the human attitude is a very, very gradual thing. And for the last 8 years, with Barack Hussein Obama in the White House and disengaging the United States from places in the world where we have vital national interests and instead making deals with nations who have traditionally been our enemies, such as Iran, selling out Israel to side up with the Muslim Brotherhood and Hamas and so forth. People, I think, whether they knew it or not, wanted to admit it or not, we were all becoming a bit pacifists. Obama clearly is a pacifist. The left is a bunch of pacifists. The left believes the United States is not the solution to the problems in the world. They believe the United States is the problem, and therefore our military represents the problem. And Obama, despite having troops deployed all over the world, we weren't fighting wars to win them. We weren't fighting wars to end them. We were not projecting our power. We were allowing our power to be diminished, and it just happened gradually. It's like you put a frog in a pot of water on a stove in cold water. And then you gradually warm the water. And the frog doesn't know what's going on until that moment when, hey, you know what, I'm being boiled here. And I think that describes a lot of the United States population. We had just been lulled into a mentality of pacifism. Not that we wanted to be, but because that's where Obama was taking the country. And in the last 8 years, the idea of the United States doing anything like this was not on anybody's mind. We'd either subconsciously or consciously acknowledged that it was a new day, a different day with Barack Hussein Obama. We got a lot of huff and puff. We got a lot of imaginary red lines drawn, but we got nothing. We didn't back up our red lines. We didn't back up our huff and puff. And so out of the blue, even though Trump telegraphed this in the days leading up to it, and even though the Secretary of State Rex Tillerson telegraphed it even more in the days leading up to it, and especially yesterday afternoon after the Chi-Com leader had landed, and Tillerson greeted him at the bottom of the steps when the Chi-Com leader came off the plane, Tillerson went to the airport and had a press conference. And it was that press conference late yesterday afternoon where another indication that something was up and something was going to happen was given, including alluding to possible regime change in Syria. Then the attack happens like the last night. Everybody's stunned and blown away. They can't believe it. It's like we were the frogs in the water, and finally, after 8 years, it got too hot. I haven't refined this belief totally, but my point is that after 8 years of Obama and the way he viewed the country and the direction he was taking the country, we had all become unaware, not on purpose, pacifists. We couldn't even see our country behaving this way. Some people were bothered by it, but for the most part, mass population. And that's why last night's event was such a shock, I believe, to so many people. Now, in imagining the reaction of the left, which to me is the real fun of this, you have to consider, you have to think of the most insane things you can to get close to how they will really react. And I was doing that last night. I have to take a break now. We will continue when we get back. Executing assigned host duties flawlessly. Zero mistakes. Wrapping up another busy broadcast week here on Open Line Friday. You know, I was thinking if Obama had spent more time surveilling and monitoring Assad than he was spending time surveilling and monitoring Trump, then maybe the Obama regime would have known that Assad still had weapons of mass destruction and was using them. Do you realize Assad's been doing this for 7 years, folks? The gassing of Syrian citizens with chemical weapons and other WMD has been going on for 7 years? And Obama's out there surveilling Trump and whoever else during the Republican primary campaign and in the Trump transition. And there's another thing. If Obama had not trusted and colluded with the Russians, and that's who did, by the way, it was Obama who was colluding with Putin and the Russians, he might have realized the Russians had lied to him about getting rid of all of the Syrian WMD. Because the story was that Assad had gotten rid of them. Some even thought he had given them to the Russians. But the Russians assured Obama, yes, Assad got rid of them. Yeah, this is bad news for him. So one of the ways I thought I could comfort liberals who were having panic attacks over Trump launching that salvo of Tomahawk missiles into Syria last night was to just say this to them. Hey, scared liberals. Don't forget something. Syria lied to Obama and lied to John Kerry about getting rid of their weapons of mass destruction. And this attack, Trump's attack, was taken to uphold Obama's honor. Trump's red line was lying to America's first black president. Would that make you feel better? If I could convince you that all Trump was doing was defending Obama's honor, would that make you feel better? Did Trump tell the Chi-Com leader during the time last night at Mar-a-Lago he was in the process of bombing Syria? We don't know when the Chi-Con leader found out about it, but we do know that in every photo taken last night, the Chi-Con leader is smiling. You could also say that Trump was just punishing Syria for lying to Obama and Kerry about disposing their chemical weapons. Any number of ways I was thinking of mollifying the left about this, because I guarantee you they are beside themselves over this. Now, let's move on to Mrs. Clinton. Hillary Clinton said yesterday that misogyny certainly played a role in her bruising defeat to Donald Trump in the presidential election, her first public interview since the loss. It was the Women in the World Summit in New York. She was asked why a majority of white women voted for a Republican who had boasted of groping women. Hillary said, I don't know. I don't know that there is one answer. Now, there entails a lie here because Trump never said he groped anybody. He said that being a celebrity, he could. But notice neither the New York Times questioner nor Hillary were embarrassed by the question, even though Hillary's husband did far more than grope women. Certainly misogyny played a role. I mean, that just has to be admitted, added the former Secretary of State, who was treated to an ecstatic welcome and a standing ovation from the crowd. Well, let's see. We have the audio sound bites here. Grab that. Actually, grab number 15. This is actually Hillary saying it. Women in the World Summit, a portion of what she said.
Certainly misogyny played a role. I mean, that just has to be admitted. And why and what the underlying reasons were is what I'm trying to parse out myself. I think in this election there was a very real struggle between what is viewed as change that is welcomed and exciting to so many Americans, and change which is worrisome and threatening to so many others. And you layer on the first woman president over that, and I think some people, women included, had real problems.
Okay, now remember, kids, the lesson here, never take responsibility. Complaining and blaming. That's what real leaders do. And Hillary Clinton is demonstrating it here in spades. In just a few sentences, Hillary Clinton demonstrates the qualities of Democrats in good standing. Liberalism has an unbroken streak of failure recently, so accepting blame on anything could collapse all the dominoes. Hillary lost, but it's not her fault. The voters are misogynists. The voters are bigots. The voters are a bunch of rubes. The voters are a bunch of Neanderthals. She, on the other hand, is a big, giant ball of wonderful. I can't believe this. Well, you know, it just has to be the case. There was misogyny. It has to be admitted. It's worrisome. It is threatening. And then you layer in the first woman president over that, and some people had real problems. So there's misogyny, there's sexism. Well, why didn't any of this manifest itself with the first African-American president? Why only the first woman president do people have this negative reaction? But this is classic. In the world of liberalism, they are never to blame. They are never at fault. They never did anything wrong. It's always the fault of the people who voted against them. Here's the next comment from Mrs. Clinton, who's now just an average citizen accepting standing ovations from people who may or may not have voted for her.
I just had to make up my mind that, yes, I was going to get out of bed, and yes, I was going to go for a lot of long walks in the woods, and I was going to see my grandchildren a lot and spend time with my family and my friends who have rallied around me in an amazing way. So I'm okay. I will put it this way. As a person, I'm okay. As an American, I'm pretty worried.
Oh, okay. As a person, she's okay. As an American, she's very worried. You know, it's amazing the impact the Russians had on this election, turning us all into a bunch of misogynists. I mean, here we are. We were on the verge of electing another historic president, the first female president, and then the electorate turned misogynist. The electorate turned sexist. And since the Russians are the big reason they lost, the Russians obviously have some effect here. Who knows how they did that? But obviously they are that powerful. You know what else she did? Grab soundbite, or grab line 3 on the phones. That's where I want to head next. She actually said yesterday afternoon that this Assad situation had gotten out of control, and she thinks the United States should launch missiles, do something about it. Now, you need to remember something. She was Secretary of State during much of the time that Syria was engaging in this use of chemical weapons against their own people. In fact, they were doing so for 7 years. You might say for the entirety of the Obama administration, Assad or somebody was using chemical weapons against Syrian citizens. And remember, that created a bunch of refugees that Obama and Hillary they couldn't welcome. They couldn't wait to welcome them all with no vetting whatsoever. And all during that time, Obama and Hillary had ample opportunity to launch some kind of a military strike, such as Trump did last night, but they didn't do it. So now that Hillary's out of office, now she comes along and starts talking what should be done, what needs to be done. And this is, I think, one of the things that sunk her during the campaign. She had just participated in 8 years of the Obama administration as she's running around complaining about things that need to be done, didn't get done, and somehow trying to associate all those things with Trump. And the people were wise. It didn't make sense. What do you mean you're complaining about the healthcare system? You're complaining about the economy? You're complaining about this? You were there. You and Obama own it. Here is Lynn in Jacksonville, Florida, has some comments on this. Lynn, great to have you on Open Line Friday. How are you?
Thank you, Rush. Great listening to you. When I saw that Hillary had made comments ahead of time specifically about going after Assad's airfield infrastructure and bombing that, it just upset me completely. But then I thought, well, does she still have fresh intel from contacts in the State Department? And it just reaffirms the whole idea of the deep state. And also, it adds to the story of why isn't something done about this, like Susan Rice, sooner than later? That's really all I had.
Well, now, wait. You mean why isn't some kind of investigation?
Why isn't she brought before Congress and questioned about it?
Oh.
Why isn't there a grand jury assembled quickly? Somebody needs to pay for these things so that...
Well, the Republicans, as a practice, have not attempted to criminalize Democrat politics. The Democrats try to criminalize conservatism, but...
All the time.
Constantly, all the time. I'm not holding out hope that anybody's going to do anything to Susan Rice. I'm
not either. It's just like Nunes yesterday, stepping away, recusing himself.
Well, there might be
again and again.
There might be a congressional investigation. She might be called to testify before a congressional investigation. Grand jury, I don't know. That would involve legal system, prosecution, everything else. But back to your Hillary point, are you suggesting to me that Hillary has sources inside a deep state and was told what Trump was going to do and therefore wanted to get out there and make herself look like she was in on the right thing to do by pre-announcing it without saying she knew it was coming?
Absolutely. It gave her another chance to grab some glory.
So you don't think it was coincidental at all?
No, sir. Not at all.
Do you think that Hillary, now this is the big question.
She specifically called for strikes on airfields.
I know that. The big question is, do you think Hillary calling for the action that Trump engaged in validates Trump taking the action? I mean, in other words, do you think people...
No, not at all. I don't feel that at all. No. The statements he made about the children and so forth. You know, it was a terrible crime that Assad had done. And, you know, just one more toothpick on all the things that he's done. And it was time for action to be taken. Now, what she said didn't justify anything. It didn't.
Yeah, but all during the 7 or 8 years that she's there, they don't do it. In fact, all during the 7 or 8 years that she's there, they tell us that they forced Assad to get rid of all that WMD. And they're out there bragging to us that they, using diplomacy and the force of Obama's nature, had convinced the bad guys to get rid of their weapons. And they're out there bragging about it. And Assad didn't get rid of the stuff. He and the Russians hid it, or we didn't even try to send in inspectors. We just took their word for it, because all Obama wanted was the photo op and the picture, the image, the perception. And now here comes Mrs. Clinton a couple of hours before we launched the attack, advocating for the attack. When I first heard this, I said, why is she saying this now? Because remember, she might be like everybody else, or a lot of people who believe Trump would never do anything like this because of statements he had made during the campaign and tweets that he had issued during the campaign. And my first reaction was that she was trying to force Trump or to illustrate that Trump's not up to the job. What needs to be done is this, and Trump will never do it. That was my first take. Your take is, no. She's got sources still inside State Department who knew what was going to happen. She wanted to get in front of it to make herself look good and tuned in and all of that. If that's the case, then my question is, can Hillary's suggestion that we do this be converted into a salesmanship aspect for Trump? In other words, even Hillary Clinton suggested we do this. You've got to support it. That's something I wouldn't go anywhere near. I wouldn't cite Hillary Clinton as justification for taking the action. I have to take a break. We've got much more, as we always do. Back after this. It is Open Line Friday. Rush Limbaugh, having more fun than a human being should be allowed to have. Because I am doing what I was born to do. And here is Daniel in Sheraton, Wyoming. It's great to have you. How you doing?
Good. How are you doing, Rush?
Just fine, sir. Thank you.
Hey, I wanted to call and say mega dittos, and I was wondering if you have any predictions on the Masters and if you have ever played Augusta.
Predictions on the Masters. Well, Dustin Johnson is out. Bad back. He's on the Stairmaster, riding that little bench up the stairs here for a couple of weeks. Now you're asking me, Charlie Hoffman is down to -5. He's +2 today on his second round. He was the leader at -7 yesterday. Garcia's making a move right now. McIlroy is making a move. You can't count out Phil Mickelson yet. So I think golf is impossible to predict. It doesn't matter what somebody did last week. It doesn't matter what roll they're on. That's the thing about this game. In a team sport, when a team's on a roll, you have a little bit more data and comfort in predicting whether the roll's going to continue, whether the team's playing well, and who the opponent is. But the golf course is the opponent. It changes every round in terms of wind and weather and so forth. And your game is never the same 2 days in a row. It's almost impossible to handicap and predict it. Without seeing, Saturday's moving day, that's the day that you really get a feel for who's playing well, is who moves up on Saturday after the cut today. But names that you know are consistently there: Garcia, although he fades, Sergio Garcia, McIlroy, Ricky Fowler, and Hoffman, if he could maintain, which he hasn't done so far with the way he was playing yesterday, anything. But it could well be somebody who hasn't won this thing before, too, so that'll make it rather exciting. I have played Augusta National. Let me see how many times. I think I played it 5 times.
What were you most struck by the first time you played it?
The topography. The thing that television does not show you is how steep the hills on this golf course are. When you tee off at number 10, You are going downhill almost to the point you need a sled. It is that steep. TV can't show you. It's two-dimensional. The fairway, the 18th hole, you better make sure your heart's in good condition if you're going to walk that hill. It is, the elevation's like 10, 11 degrees. It's steep. In no way does television even get close to portraying that. That was the first thing that struck me about the place. The next thing that struck me was how immaculate it is. It's just, it looks painted. It looks, the fairways, the greens, it's immaculate. It doesn't look like there is one blade of grass out of place, not properly trimmed or mowed, dead. It's stunning. You really feel like you're in hallowed ground, and you don't want your round to end because you don't want to have to leave the place. You don't care how well you play the first time. Second, third time, then you say, okay, now I want to play well. I've gotten being here out of my system. Now you want to play. It's difficult as hell. It's so much more difficult than it even looks on TV, because when you see it on TV, professionals are playing, and they always make it look easy. But it's there's no other place like it. Nowhere, anywhere in golf. If you play golf, and if you've always wanted to go to Augusta National, I just tell you this. When you get there, it is everything and more that you hope it will be. The people there are everything and more. They make everybody there feel very special. Ha! Are you? Welcome back, my friends. You are tuned to the most listened to radio talk show in America, hosted by the most talked about, I'm sure it happens at your dinner table, just like it happens in the media, host. What? Oh, Well, I'll answer it after the intro here.
Live from the Southern Command in sunny South Florida, it's Open Line Friday.
As I was saying before I was interrupted by a rude glance, the most talked about host happens at your dinner table, just as it was in the media, in America, and the most listened to program in America. Over 600 great radio stations, not a clunker among them. A lot of shows are on clunker stations, not this one. 800-282-2882. If you want to be on the program, you send an email, lrushbo at eibnet.us. The official program observer, Mr. Snerdley, has a question. What is the question? No, he's asking how do you get to play at Augusta? You must be invited by a member. You can't walk on. You can't get through the gate. That place has White House type security there. You can't get in it. You have to be accompanied by a guest. I'll just tell you the first time I went. I was invited by a club officer. An invitation that surprised the heck out of me because the club officer was known. I'm not going to mention his name now because Augusta is a very, they're behind the gates kind of club. And it was fast. I was stunned to get the invitation, and I was allowed to bring two friends, and then they paired us with the club pro, and that was the foursome. And they invited us in the night before, and we stayed in the cabin occupied by this club officer, and he hosted us for dinner in the club dining room. You should have seen that when we walked in. This was back in 2000, 2001. But this club officer was an amazing guy. And Augusta has not a lot of rules, but they're very strictly enforced. And the way this guy, I was not told of the rules before arriving. Meaning behavioral rules, dress code rules, none of that. I was just... You know. I mean, as a golfer, you know what some of them are, and you have a chance to go there. You try to learn as much about the place as you can. But the way the rules were explained to me was fascinating. This club officer told a story about somebody who had violated every rule as a way of explaining the rules. He was a extremely refined and sophisticated individual, and rather than just stand there like a military person and preach the rules, he passed the rules on via funny stories. For example, and of course we're all ears because we're getting details of things that have happened at the club. So the first story he told was about a guest who showed up to play, and in the morning, getting ready in the men's locker room, he was wearing a pair of shorts. And the club president at the time, Cliff Roberts, walked up to him and said, "Where are you playing today?" And the guest said, "I play right here, Mr. Roberts. I'm so excited. I can't wait to get out there." And Mr. Roberts said, "You're not playing here. Not in those. You're not wearing shorts here. We don't wear shorts at Augusta." So that's how I was told, no shorts. It's a good thing that I had taken slacks, but I would have been able to buy a pair in the pro shop. The next story, which I found fascinating, the club officer told a story about a guest who was extremely braggadocious about his wealth and how unappreciated things like that are at Augusta National. And I'm just giving you the short version of the story. This story took about 5 minutes to tell, and it was hilarious. The upshot of the story was that this braggadocious guest, the night before playing his round, was playing bridge with other members and was going on and on and on about his net worth, trying to fit in. He thought that the members at Augusta were all wealthy, and he was trying to make himself appear to be one of them. And it got to be so bad that my host said he walked up to him, what is your net? What is your net worth? I mean, you keep talking about it. How much money you got? And the guy gives him a figure. And my host, the club officer, said to him, you want to cut the cards for it? As a way of diminishing the guy and his bragging about his... the host says, okay, let's cut the cards for your net worth. And the guy shut up. So the message there was, you can't impress anybody here. Don't try. That's not... You just have a good time here. Don't... And there were 3 or 4 stories like that that served to explain proper decorum and comportment. Not a one of them was offensive. They were uproariously funny. Of course, when you play the first time, you don't want it to end. And when you play, you want to see the parts of the course that you like the most, having watched it on TV. And for most people, that's Amen Corner. Holes 11, 12, and 13. So you can't wait to get there, but then you don't want to get there because when you do get there, it means you're getting close to the end. But when you get there, and it was Amen Corner for me. 11, 12, and 13, and 15 and 18. And number 1, I'd never seen number 1 on TV, so that was curious about that one. But it's, as I say, if you ever get a chance to go, it's everything you would hope it would be. And Mr. Snerdley is asking, how do you become a member? You don't ever ask that question. You do not ever ask. If you ask that question, you have a mark against you that you can't erase. You do not talk about membership when you're there. You don't express. You may ask about how many, but you don't ask any details about membership. Certainly not your first time. Now, people can volunteer whatever they want, but it's all about... in fact, there was a tradition, lore, was that the best way to never become a member there is to try, is to lobby for it. Well, Bill Gates did. He went public, gosh, I wanted, and he got in. So not everything is locked down. But it's basically a CEO club, as best I can tell. But that doesn't matter. It's just everybody there is tremendous. They treat you like you are a member. They treat you like they see you every day and love you. It's just everything you'd want it to be. The golf course is everything you want it to be. I'll tell you the guy asked me what was the first thing I noticed, and I said the topography, how steep 18 is. It's hilly. This golf course is, there are not all that many flat lies on it, but it's impossible for TV to convey because it's two-dimensional. But the next thing about it, every time when you see Augusta on TV, there are thousands and thousands of people there surrounding the greens. When you see 18 with no people there, you're not even sure it's 18. The first time you see it, you're looking, you see the putting green, you see the tee box, you think it's number 1. It looks entirely different without the patrons, the gallery there. So those are the first things that at least hit me my first time there. Well, actually, my first time there was a spectator. Steve Jones had won the U.S. Open and invited me and Paul Westphal to go, and we trudged around for 3 days watching it. But that still was nothing like being invited to play it. I mean, there were nobody there other than the people playing the course. Everybody has caddies. They wear the white caddy uniform just like they do on the tournament. The leaderboard scoreboards were still posted. We played after the tournament the year I went the first time. It's a special place. It really is. Anyway, do you have any other questions about it? What is it? Mm-hmm. Right. Snerdley's asking, he's asking me of all the golf clubs I played, is Augusta at the top of the list. Here's the way, when you play golf, people always ask you what your favorite course is. And what I always say is, we'll take Augusta out because it's the automatic number 1. So, yeah, Augusta's my favorite place. For a variety of reasons. There are other places I love playing too. But yeah, it's that special a place. It's not just because it's on TV every year. It's not the tradition. Genuinely, the golf course itself is just a fascinating, unique, fun setup. But the TV lure is impossible to avoid. It's on TV every year. The people that play it are professionals. They play it well. So you want to go out and do on that course what you've seen them do on, like number 15. When the weather's good, number 15, it's a par 5, and the guys that are in the top 10, they can hit the green in 2. We amateurs can't do it, but we try. If they give you a free swing, you want to try for 15 and 2? Go ahead, drop a ball. It's, as I say, you don't want the day to end. And usually the experience involves an overnight. You go in the day before, spend the night, have dinner, whatever, play the next day. Let me take a brief time out. We'll come back and we will continue. I tell you, I'm checking some emails and I'm getting notes from people. Rush, I'm noticing more Trump voter anger over the Syrian attack than I'm seeing anger from the left on this on social media. So I said at the beginning of the program, I've got a piece here written by a Trump supporter who feels betrayed. Let me share that with you when we get back, plus your phone calls. And we're back. El Rushmore executing assigned host duties flawlessly. 0 mistakes. Speaking of people who are not happy with what happened, Andy McCarthy, my buddy at National Review Online, tweeted last night and has now published a lengthy piece that none of this is legal, that there are no vital U.S. national interests at stake, that Trump needed congressional authority or a resolution, and he didn't get one. And besides, Trump, on the campaign trail, never said he would do this. In fact, he said he would never do this. He campaigned on doing just the opposite of this. And now Andy knows he's going against the grain here with the conventional wisdom or the popular wisdom of support for this. And I've got another piece here that I have referenced. That's a Trump supporter who's not happy with what happened, which I will get to in due course. Now, Nikki Haley is at the UN, and she is giving them hell right now. She's saying that Assad thought he could get away with gassing because they knew Russia had their backs. But that's no longer the case. It doesn't matter if Russia has their backs because Russia has nothing to do with our foreign policy. I mean, she just smacked them. She laid it right after every one of these Democrats and leftists that think that Trump's in collusion with Putin. She nuked the hell out of that. She called out the Iranian government. She called out the Russians. She was firing both barrels. She said the USA is not going to allow Assad to get away with any more murder. She called out the Russians, said they were supposed to get all the chemical weapons out, and they did not. And folks, about this, the Obama administration's complicit in this. The Obama administration actually lied. Well, let me back off of that. I don't know if they lied. But the Obama administration assured everybody that after they told Assad to get rid of these weapons, that Assad did. And the Russians backed up Assad. Yep, we've talked to him. These chemical weapons and WMD, they're gone. Now, some people suspected that what happened was that Assad just transferred the weapons to Russia, and that Russia then turned around and gave them back to Assad when nobody was looking. But whatever is the case, Susan Rice was on NPR back in January. Yeah, that's Susan Rice that can't tell the truth about anything. And she, on NPR in January, assured everybody that the Obama administration had succeeded in demanding that Assad get rid of all of his chemical and WMD. Assured everybody that that had happened when obviously it hasn't. Clearly, the previous administration either was incompetent or they were lying to us. They either accepted Assad's word for it that he had gotten rid of the chemical weapons in WMD, or knew that he didn't and just lied to us anyway. And Susan Rice lied in January. So Nikki Haley is taking it to the Russians, taking it to the Iranians. And she's laying a lot of this off on Russia, by the way, by reminding everybody that Putin was supposed to get all those chemical weapons out of Syria and that they didn't. And then she dropped a hammer and said the world is waiting for Russia to act properly in Syria because they have not yet. And that's just going to blow everything sky high when it comes to this notion that Putin and Trump are inseparable, and Trump has been co-opted by Putin and is a, for all intents and purposes, secret Russian agent. I mean, this is what the left would have you believe as a result of the Putin-Trump so-called collusion on the election. So Nikki Haley has left no doubt whatsoever. Then Tillerson yesterday. Tillerson said the Russians are either complicit or incompetent in regard to getting rid of the chemical weapons and nuclear weapons that Syria has not gotten rid of and has continued to use. Now, in the Daily Caller today, there is a piece by Elliot Resnick. It is entitled, "What's Changed on Syria, Mr. President?" During the campaign, you promised not to embroil the U.S. in the Middle East petty wars. You correctly stated that we have no clue who the Syrian rebels are. You wisely argued that as bad as dictators like Assad may be, they at least keep terrorists at bay. What changed, Mr. President? Do pictures of dead, innocent people render irrelevant all the logical points you raised while running for office? Is America now to go to war every time a leader around the world kills innocent people? I know the pundits say, but he gassed babies. Yeah, that's true, but why is death by gassing any worse than death by bullets? Death is death. Some people evoke Hitler's gassing of Jews. Well, I'm a Jew, writes Mr. Resnick. I grew up reading Holocaust memoirs, and I don't recall anybody ever making a moral distinction between the gassing of Jews at Auschwitz and the gunning down of 35,000 Jews over 2 days at Babi Yar. President Trump, you were the one who bucked the entire establishment. While everyone else's brains turned to mush upon seeing pictures of a bloody Syrian boy, you wisely reminded us that America must come first, that it is not our job to fight everyone else's wars, that with $19 trillion in debt, we literally cannot afford to make it our job, and that an American president's duty is to his own people, not to the world. Mr. President, writes Mr. Resnick, please do not become Bush 3. All we need is more intervention in the Middle East. You yourself said that if our politicians had done nothing during the last 15 years, that if they had even just gone to the beach, that we would be better off today. What's changed, Mr. President? Why get involved in this Syrian mess? Why oppose a man fighting radical jihadists? That's Assad fighting ISIS. Please, President Trump, please return to your common sense approach to world affairs. Please only commit American troops to battle when America's national security is at stake. Please don't listen to your Russophobe advisors. Russia doesn't threaten us. Under communism, Russia was ideologically committed to worldwide domination, but communism's history. All Putin wants is to make Russia great again, just like you want to make America great again. Russia has zero interest in America. Russia's glorious period under the czars never included domination over Western Europe, let alone the United States. Please, Mr. President, don't do it again. Okay, let's go back to the phones. People patiently waiting. Here is Dennis in St. Louis. Dennis, I'm glad you waited, and great to have you with us. How you doing, sir?
Thank you very much. I'm doing great.
Good.
It's an honor to talk to you.
You bet, sir. Thank you.
And I got to admit, I got hooked on you watching your TV show in grade school. So it's a big honor to be able to talk to you.
I'm really grateful that you have been around that long. That goes back to 92, 3, 4. It's a long time. I'm very appreciative that you hung in.
Absolutely. Thank you. So there are two things I wanted to talk about. One, I'm not thrilled with Trump and the missile attack in Syria. And second, I wanted your input, thoughts on the Galaxy S8. So first, with Trump, I'm not thrilled with the missile attack. Now, in the first hour, you reassured me. I love Reagan's concept of peace through strength, and I think the missile attack does demonstrate that. But I still have two concerns. One, can we really trust that chemical attack was Assad? Maybe he just didn't bomb a chemicals plant that al-Nusra or somebody else had, the rebels, because the info seems to have come from that White Helmet organization. I don't know that they're too credible. And my second concern, your previous caller talked about a Hillary connection, and I may know what that connection is. I know recently Dina Powell was kind of promoted to Mr. Trump's national security advisor, and she's got very close ties to Valerie Jarrett, and her husband as well, Richard Powell, works for, is it Teneo?
Wait. Dina Powell is not married.
Oh, I thought she was.
No, she's not. She may be divorced, but she's not married.
Well, I know she has very close connections to Valerie Jarrett, and that just the fact that she's advising Trump really concerns me, and the fact that we saw Trump act so quickly after this, just after everything he said in the campaign, just really concerned me.
Well, let me throw something back at you in that regard.
Definitely.
Last night I'm watching Jack Keane, the retired Army general that is the specialist commentator and all this stuff for Fox. And he was read these two tweets that Trump had posted during the campaign, urging Obama not to get involved. Don't do anything. You got nothing to gain here. It's a hellhole. There's nothing to win. We're $19 trillion in debt. The two tweets that Trump issued warning Obama it'd be a waste of time. Do not get America involved over there again. Don't do it. So he was asked about this. And his answer was, that's so long ago. He said, the difference is now that Trump was just a commentator like I am here. And all he was doing was uttering an opinion. But now he's president. Everything changes when you become president. Everything. The things that you've said during a campaign on military strategy and policy, it automatically changes when you become the commander-in-chief. And his opinion was that this represented, now granted he's a military guy, and granted he loves this action, he loves this move, he loves the execution of it, he thought it was brilliant, and so he's going to be supportive of Trump, but he said that this is a great example of Trump learning and understanding what's important, and reestablishing the position of strength in the world on the part of the United States. Mr. Keane, General Keane last night, kept making the point the last 8 years we had been reduced to nothing, a paper tiger. We were in the process of having our superpower status stripped away from us. It was embarrassing. It was dangerous because the world is only as safe as the United States can keep it, he said. Something along that's not an exact quote, it's a paraphrase. So he basically said, disregard what Trump said during the campaign. Disregard those tweets because it doesn't matter. When you become president, and you learn much more than you ever know as just an opinion leader on the sidelines, it changes everything. Does that have any impact on you?
Not me personally, because I kind of get that, but still, he really campaigned off the idea "Make America Great Again." That's why I think the missile strike, I'm fine with that. Like I said, I do have those concerns. But if he goes beyond that, really I wanted to see his focus on America and making America great. Now, yeah, I agree he needs to demonstrate strength for America throughout the world, and I think this does accomplish that. But in the back of my mind, I'm still wondering who's advising him on this, because General Flynn had questioned the previous chemical attack back in 2013, and since...
Why do you presume anybody's advising him? Why is this not something he wanted to do on his own?
Because it seemed like it happened so quickly after Dina Powell got put into her position of National Security Advisor. It just happened a few days ago, then all of a sudden this. And then I kind of fall back to Trump's previous statements, where it seemed like this wouldn't be the first action he'd do right away.
Okay, now wait, I stand to be corrected on this if I'm wrong, but I don't think Dina Powell is NSA. Dina Powell is an aide to Gary Cohn. They're both liberal Democrats from Goldman Sachs. She did work in the Bush administration, but she's on the economic side. Gary Cohen's an economic advisor. They're not NSC. You might be confusing her with somebody else.
No, I don't believe so. I'm pretty certain that she's advising him.
Okay. Well, my impression of Trump, just having been around him, and I'm not one of his advisors, and I'm not there, and well, I don't think Trump needs to be told what he thinks about this. I don't think Trump needs a lot of advisors. I don't think Trump's sitting up there not knowing what he thinks, not knowing what he thinks is best. I don't think that as these things come and go, he runs around, what do you think I should do? I think what happens is he makes up his mind he wants to do something and then asks people, how's the best way to make it? He goes and talks to the military. What's the best timing? What's the best way? How do we do it? I think the timing with the Chi-Com leader having dinner with him, I think that's classic Trump. It is purposeful, the timing of this. And it sends all kinds of messages to the Norks, to the Chi-Coms, to the Iranians. So it's not just whatever happened in Syria. And I do believe that Trump, while this Make America Great Again is not just domestically and economically. I think Trump is very concerned. Look at the money he wants to spend on the military. I mean, he wants to blow through the military, but what for? If not to use it or to use it as a deterrent, have it as a deterrent. I think Trump is very alarmed and distressed over what Obama has done to the United States military and the perception of our standing and strength in the world.
I agree, and I think you are right. The missile strike does, rebuild America's image and demonstrate that we are a leader, that we do care about the world.
Now, this might create more Syrian refugees. I can play devil's advocate, by the way, all day long with you. And I'm not purposely trying to disagree. You're a smart guy. I'm enjoying drawing you out because you're obviously committed to your opinion here. But this could create new Syrian refugees. I mean, one of the reasons I think Obama had the policy he did was purposely to create this flood of refugees. He wanted them here. Have you seen the latest of what Trump is doing in terms of vetting and letting people into this country or not? He's demanding they're turning over their social media passwords, their login credentials so that they can be vetted that way. It actually is a program started under Obama that was not strictly adhered to. Trump is strictly adhering to it. But there's a lot wrapped up into this. But the main point, you want to say that this is the result of some people you question being in his inner circle, like Dina Powell.
I'm afraid of that, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I don't know for sure, but I certainly hope you're right that no one is advising Trump, because from what I saw in the campaign, it seems like his gut decision is usually right. He's lived a long life. He's got a lot of experience. And
okay,
I
that's a good example. Let me share a story with you. I met with President Trump at Mar-a-Lago in February. So he'd been in office about a month. It was for an hour. Went over there on a Saturday. They invited me. Reince Priebus called and said, the president wants to see us. I went over there, and it was an hour. And we toured Mar-a-Lago, and it was funny. There was a big charity event at Mar-a-Lago that night, the Red Cross Ball. It's the biggest charity event of the season here. It's the event where people spend $3 million to make $1 million. It's crazy. But all of the early arrivals were showing up, and there were pockets of people all throughout Mar-a-Lago, including military people who were going to be guests. And every group of people, we stopped. Trump points at me. Greatest man in America, smartest man in America, most powerful man in America. And these people look around. They can't believe Trump is stopping and talking to them. They start applauding. I bow my head and try to refuse the compliment and so forth. But then we got to where we were going to go to talk, and I'm just telling you, I'm asking him questions about things that are happening at that moment. There's no indecision about anything, and he never once asked me what I thought. He never asked me once what he thought I ought to do. He never asked me what I think of this or that. My impression is This man is more self-informed and decisive than, well, look, let me put it this way. He is as decisive as anybody I've ever met. I just don't see him running around asking various people in his inner circle, what do you think I ought to do here? I think he knows what he wants to do and either seeks support for it or talks to people that oppose him, and he may listen to them. But I don't think he's indecisive at all.
Well, that's good to know. Yeah, you've reassured me quite a bit. I appreciate it.
Well,
thank you.
It's just my opinion. You know, I'm not an intimate of Donald Trump, but I have great instincts about people, and I have fairly good skill at sizing people up. And I spot phonies. They're easy to spot: phony, baloney, plastic, banana, good time, rock and rollers. You can tell when somebody's talking to you and not really hearing you. I've been around powerful people ask me what I think about things, and I can tell they're not really listening. They just asked, to try to score points that way. Trump listens. But you don't get the impression that he's listening from a position of indecisiveness, indecision, or confusion. I've never met anybody with the energy this guy's got either. But that's a side note. Now, you also asked him about the Galaxy S8, which is the new smartphone from Samsung, and I will answer that. But I got to take a break now. Well, the last time I left the charted waters of the issues, answering questions about Augusta, I got scathing emails that I was missing what Nikki Haley was saying at the UN. And to get back to the issues, bunch of snarks out there. You people need to realize nothing gets past me. I don't miss anything. And if I get off the issue path for 10 or 15 minutes, never fear. We're always going to get back. Okay, look, I stand corrected. I must be confusing Dina Powell with somebody else, because the caller was right. She is married to Richard Powell. He's a PR executive in Washington. Her name is Dina Habib Powell. And she has indeed been promoted to the National Security Council. It happened on March the 17th. She used to be working with Gary Cohn, who's the Goldman Sachs economics guy, and Ivanka. She was part of the Ivanka advisory team. But on March 17th, she was promoted to the National Security Council. So I apologize to the previous caller. And she is married. So I was wrong on all counts. And I got to figure out who I'm thinking of here, because I could have sworn this is the woman whose name I've been trying to remember the past 3 days because I couldn't. I had to look it up, and it was Dina Powell, and everybody thought I was talking about Jamie Gorelick. I wasn't talking about Jamie. I was talking about this babe. So anyway, caller was right. She is at the NSC, and his theory is that ever since she got there, the caller thinks that's the big change. That she's, tight with Hillary and so forth and advising and blah, blah, blah. Don't worry, folks. Lots of time to sort all this out. I also have the Nikki Haley. A couple of bites of Nikki Haley just ripping it at the United Nations earlier. Here's take one.
It could be that Russia is knowingly allowing chemical weapons to remain in Syria. It could be that Russia has been incompetent in its efforts to remove the chemical weapons. Or it could be that the Assad regime is playing the Russians for fools, telling them that there are no chemical weapons, all the while stockpiling them on their bases. The world is waiting for the Russian government to act responsibly in Syria. The world is waiting for Russia to reconsider its misplaced alliance with Bashar Assad. The United States will no longer wait for Assad to use chemical weapons without any consequences. Those days are over.
I know what you're saying. That's not what you said during the campaign, Mr. Trump. That's not what you said. This wasn't going to happen. That's what you said during the campaign. And Andy McCarthy's out there tweeting, it's unconstitutional. He can't do this without congressional authority, without other agreements being in place. So there's a lot of discord on this. Here's one more from Nikki Haley, also today at the UN.
Now we must move to a new phase, a drive toward a political solution to this horrific conflict. We expect the Syrian regime and its allies to take the UN political process seriously, something they have not done up until this point. We expect Russia and Iran to hold their ally accountable and abide by the terms of the ceasefire. We expect this council to speak loudly and forcefully when the regime or its allies undermine the political process, and countless of our own resolutions. The United States took a very measured step last night. We are prepared to do more, but we hope that will not be necessary.
That's another point. Jack Keane, the military guy, the former general who is now a strategery analyst at Fox, kept saying, this is so limited. What we did this is a limited attack. He said, it sounds like a lot, 59 Tomahawks. But the Russians were alerted, by the way. There were Russian troops there, and it's called a confliction notice. In intergovernmental language, it's called a confliction notice. And basically, we didn't call Putin. We sent word to the Russian troops on the ground that we wise if you guys hightailed it. They had plenty of time to get out of there so that there were no Russians harmed. The military target was the chemical weapons stocks. And General Keane said, this is limited. This is very, very limited. It sounds like a lot of Tomahawks, but the target is very limited. No reason to be having an overreaction to this. And Nikki Haley just said the same thing, that this was essentially a very light response compared to what we could do if we had to do it again. Now, the guy asked me my opinion of the new Galaxy S8 smartphone from Samsung. And that answer actually is going to have more to do with Apple than with Samsung. That and much more coming up. Don't go anywhere. Right on. Welcome back, folks. Open Line Friday. Rush Limbaugh meeting and surpassing all audience expectations every day. We just keep cycling it here.
Live from the Southern Command in sunny South Florida, it's Open Line Friday.
And we are at our final busy broadcast hour of the busy broadcast week with your highly trained broadcast specialist, Rush Limbaugh, at 800-282-2882, the email address lrushbaugh@eibnet.us. Okay, I'll get around to answering the question about the Galaxy S8 in due course. As I say, that's gonna out of necessity launch me into a discussion of Apple as well. But there are other things that'll take precedence, and I know the caller who asked me this will be patient out there. Now, for those of you who are alarmed at Trump's military action in Syria last night, specifically those of you who are alarmed because this is not to type. The president during campaign, all those tweets, even before he became a candidate, suggesting that action like this is uncalled for, it's unproductive, it's not useful, it's a waste of money, and it potentially lures America into Middle East wars that we have no business being in. If you are of that mindset, then I need to share this bit of news with you. This is from the Washington Examiner, and it's actually from earlier yesterday. This was Rex Tillerson. I believe this was after Trump landed here in Florida. Trump got here after the CHICOM leader. CHICOM leader arrives. Rex Tillerson is at the bottom of the stairs to greet the CHICOM leader, Xi Jinping, and his wife, Le Yupin Xi Jinping. And then after that meeting, he went in and had a press conference in some room at the FBO at the airport. And I guess there weren't a whole lot of people paying a lot of attention to it, but one of the things that Tillerson said is that the United States, this is before the attack, United States is organizing a coalition to remove Assad. Now, what happened last night was not aimed at removing Assad. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson said Thursday steps are underway to organize an international community effort to oust Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, a major policy shift triggered by the latest chemical weapons attack in the country's ongoing civil war. Tillerson told reporters with the acts that he's taken, it would seem that there would be no rule for him to govern the Syrian people. The process by which Assad would leave is something I think requires an international community effort, both to defeat ISIS within Syria, to stabilize the Syrian country to avoid further civil war, and then to work collectively with our partners around the world through a political process that would lead to Assad leaving. That's a big deal. You start talking regime change, that's not just 59 Tomahawks launched at a bunch of chemical weapons depots. Tillerson added the steps are already underway. This adds a new layer of complexity to Tillerson's upcoming trip to Moscow. Russia has provided Assad with major military diplomatic support. Nikki Haley today took it to the Russians at the United Nations, essentially saying they're complicit. They're either complicit or incompetent. Tillerson said the same thing last night. Tillerson said it is important the Russian government consider carefully their continued support for the Assad regime. Now, if you are thinking this is not the stuff we heard from Trump during the campaign, you'd be right. I mean, there's no arguing that. Tillerson is still scheduled to go to Moscow next week. If the attack had not happened, then I guarantee you the story today would be that Tillerson going to Moscow would be used as further evidence of a collusion between Trump and the Russians. But now that's kind of blown to smithereens, hasn't it? This whole notion of Trump collaborating with Putin. I mean, if that's happening, how did last night happen? And if we're colluding with the Russians, I mean, Syria is a very important client state of Putin. If we're now engaging in regime change, we're at odds with the Russians. We're at odds with the Iranians on this. We would have the support of the Saudis, no doubt, and the Israelis. Russian President Vladimir Putin's team signaled that Assad might not enjoy unconditional support from them, as they disclaimed responsibility for the Syrian gas attack. Putin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said it's not correct to say that Moscow can convince Mr. Assad to do whatever is wanted in Moscow. That's totally wrong. So the Russians are backing off here. After the attack, the Russians are, hey, we don't have sway over this guy. Now, you might want to call that backing off. You might not want to call it back, but that's not upstanding, flat-out defiance either. This is not the Russians standing, you better be careful, you better not you better not make a move on Assad, or else you're dealing with us. They didn't say that. They're saying, don't blame us. We can't get this guy to do everything we want. They are putting distance between themselves and Assad. I mean, this is a huge backpedal on the part of the Russians. And I'm just telling you this, folks, we would have never seen this during the Obama days. We would have never seen any foreign government backpedaling. This is the one thing that is just a stark difference to me. During the Obama presidency, there is no way Putin would have acted frightened or deferential. Putin would not have cared whether Obama thought they were associated with Assad or not, because they had no, well, I don't want to use the word fear, but they clearly had no concern. They were not worried about what Obama might do, either in Syria or vis-a-vis Russia. And that clearly has changed now. Tillerson also said last night that Putin himself did not have advance notice of the strikes, but that there was a deconfliction notice. And those are practically required by international law. It's more like a heads up. We're coming. You better get out of the way. It's not asking permission of anybody. It simply says, if you're Russia and if you're on the ground in this area, we're coming. So we telegraphed. I mean, it's not like it was a total surprise. And we made sure that no Russians were killed or harmed in the attack. And at least if they were, it was because they chose to stay and didn't follow the instructions to get out. So in that sense, the proper steps were taken. Let's also remember that Trump's support base here includes the Egyptian President al-Sisi and King Abdullah of Jordan. And by the way, both of them Trump was supposed to have alienated for all time. The media has been trying to tell us that Trump's alienating all of our former allies. The media is trying to tell us that Trump has got all of our allies nervous and on edge because, my God, the guy's uncontrollable. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's an outsider. He's unpredictable. And we've been told that all of these allies of ours are scared to death and just wish Obama were back. And we're finding out that's not true. Which is also no big surprise. Department of Defense further stated that it went to great pains not to hit Russians at the Syrian military base. So you've got all kinds of news here that we gave ample warning to Russians on the ground to vacate the area. More on General Keane, the Fox News military analyst. He was asked, how do you square what Trump said in these tweets about never doing things like this? This is a mistake for the U.S. to do. How do you square what Trump said versus what he did last night? Jack Keane said, listen, this is a limited strike. It sounds like a lot, 59 Tomahawks. It's a limited strike. It was one target. And Trump is sending a message to a lot of people here. He's telling the Chinese, he said, listen, the North Koreans are trying to weaponize ICBMs. And the rhetoric is they'll use them against my country and my people. Don't push me into a corner where I have to use a military option to deal with North Korea. Keene's point is that this attack last night sends a signal. If you're North Korea and you keep taunting and taunting us, you can expect the same kind of retaliation. And the message was to the Chi-Com leader who's having dinner with Trump after the attack, you make sure they get the message here. Don't push me into a corner. And Jack Keane said, I think Trump will get the Chinese attention for sure, and as a result of that, it's going to be a much better situation. This is not just rhetoric from the American president. We've had rhetoric for 8 years with passivity and no action, and that changed tonight. Jack Keane, retired military general, all ecstatic and happy over what happened last night. And how about Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi breaking from the Democrat Party to heartily endorse this? But let's not forget they did the same thing in the Iraq War, folks. Don't forget that. You may think the Democrats always opposed the Iraq War, 2003, George W. Bush. No way. They were as eager beaver for it as they appear to be for this. And then, after the media finished shifting public opinion, these Democrats, including Dianne Feinstein and Hillary and all the others that voted for it, began to act like they had never voted for it. And, of course, the media let them get away with it. So we have to keep these two statements of Pelosi and Schumer nearby for the day down the road when they start acting like they were never supportive of this, that they think Trump made a tactical big-time mistake. Let me take a brief time out. We will come back and continue right after this. Here is Phil in Dallas, Texas. It's great to have you, sir. Thank you for calling. Hi.
Russ, you have rightly been asking questions about the alleged Russia hacking the election story. There's one very interesting aspect of it that I can't see anyone asking questions about. I would like you to ask about it. There are numerous stories from Wired.com, CNS News, the Daily Mail in the UK that the Democrats would not allow the FBI to look at the allegedly hacked Democrat servers. And I'm wondering, if you genuinely believe that your servers have been hacked in an effort to subvert a national election, why would you stop the FBI from investigating?
Well, I can think of one answer, because there was an election that was rigged, and it was the Democrat primary in which Hillary, working with Debbie Blabbermouth Schultz, rigged the game against Bernie Sanders, and the evidence of that was probably on the DNC computer network. And
yes, I would agree with that.
If I had to guess at one thing, but I think there's probably more than that.
Oh, so do I. I think there's another answer.
What is it?
Well, the Democrats told the FBI, no, you're not coming in here and looking at our stuff. We've hired a third party, an independent party, to look at these things, and we'll have them get back to you with our evidence.
Right, and you know who that was? You know who that was?
No, I don't.
It was CrowdStrike was the name of the company, I'm pretty sure, and they have connections with the Russians, the Russian hackers.
Rush, doesn't this seem sort of like a staged crime scene? If my house is burglarized and I run to the police and the press screaming, you know, my house has been burgled, thousands of dollars in merchandise are gone, and the police show up to investigate, and I tell them, no, you're not investigating this. I'm going to let a third party come in here, and they'll investigate it, and they'll walk around the crime scene, and they'll arrange things, and they'll look at evidence, and once we have the picture assembled for you, we'll get back to you. That seems horribly suspicious to me.
Let me tell you what, not only that, if your house is burgled, as you say, and the cops or any other law enforcement authority come in and they want to investigate, and you tell them no, the next thing they're going to do is investigate you.
Yes,
for
sir.
not letting them investigate the burglary. They're going to. What do you mean you don't want us to find out? What are you hiding? And they'll start investigating you.
Absolutely right. But I have done searches trying to find mainstream media news accounts of this aspect of the story. You will not find it from CBS, ABC, NBC, CNN.
No, let me tell you how you can find this. And I'm not saying that you can swear by what you're going to find. But if you'll do a Google search of CrowdStrike was the firm the DNC hired to come in and pour through their computer network. And then the Democrats told the FBI that we will share with you what CrowdStrike finds. Now, CrowdStrike, they're a legitimate company, but they do have hacker connections with the people like Guccifer 2.0, which supposedly a Ukrainian hacker with ties to the Russian, the current edition of the KGB. I mean, it's highly suspicious, and you're absolutely correct to have your antenna raised over this.
There's one other aspect I think is interesting.
Well, cool. What's that?
WikiLeaks just revealed that in the CIA's cyber armory, they had tools that could make it look like the Russians had hacked you.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
It makes me wonder if this was arranged, so they wanted to blame it on Trump. They had Brennan at the CIA have the DNC servers hacked when the information was actually released by a DNC insider.
Right.
And then they had CrowdStrike assemble the evidence to point at Trump, and then they let the FBI have CrowdStrike's results. This is a staged crime scene, Rush.
No question about it. I don't know if every aspect as you've laid it out is true, but there's no question the general theory is accurate. The WikiLeaks dump, the original WikiLeaks dump, there have been subsequent dumps since then, but the original dump of all of the CIA stuff that WikiLeaks, the whistleblower somewhere in the CIA gave it all to WikiLeaks, and they published some of it. I can't remember the category, but you're right. There was discovered a bunch of CIA hacking programs that have the ability to make it look like the Russians or the Chinese or the North Koreans are actually doing the hacking. They found a way to actually attach Russian, Chinese fingerprints or signatures to the hack. And, of course, the Russian fingerprints that have supposedly been, the Russians wouldn't leave evidence they were there.
No.
If it was a genuine hack and they were genuinely trying to secretly acquire, they would not leave evidence they were there. But the CIA or somebody else might do so wanting to point to the Russians. But your staged crime scene, I have no doubt. I also think that the refusal to let the FBI pour through the DNC network is to hide various things like what we just been discussing, the existence of these CIA hacker programs that make it look like others have actually done it.
God bless you, Rush. You're a national treasure.
Well, thanks to callers like you. I'll tell you, the rule of thumb on this stuff, folks, it's not 100%, but it's so close it's scary. When the Democrats start accusing other people of things, you can pretty much make book the Democrats are the ones doing it themselves. And when they start predicting, supposing, analyzing that this could have been done that way, it's because they've been doing it that way themselves, and that's how they're aware of it. Their fingerprints ultimately are going to be found all over this. Okay, this CrowdStrike outfit. CrowdStrike is run by a Ukrainian who happens to hate Russia with a passion. CrowdStrike, in fact, sees Russia everywhere. And if they are sourcing things for the DNC, it would not be hard to imagine CrowdStrike telling the Democrats the Russians are involved with Trump. The guy just has he hates him. He just despises. Last week, CrowdStrike got caught lying about the Russians hacking Ukrainian military app. It turns out that it wasn't hacked at all. CrowdStrike even made up stories about the havoc the Russians caused in Ukraine. They just published a bunch of lies. And these are the people the Democrats had come in and analyze their computer network rather than let the FBI come in after everybody was just caterwauling and screaming that the Russians hacked the computer network. And they said, FBI, no, you can't come in. We're going to let CrowdStrike, and whatever CrowdStrike finds, we'll pass on to you. Swedish Prime Minister says Stockholm truck crash was an attack, validating yet again Donald Trump's comments about horrible terrorism actually being taken out, going on in Sweden, not being reported. Galaxy S8. I've been burned once today. A guy asked me about Augusta National. I started answering the questions. I got a bunch of snark email from people ripping me for avoidance. Open line Friday, for crying out loud. Let me get the Galaxy S8 because I said that it's going to take me into Apple. And it will. The Galaxy S8 was just announced by Samsung. If it is what it looks like, it's the best phone they've ever made. It looks like what all of the rumors say the next iPhone's going to be. In the past, it's always been Samsung that has not only been accused of copying Apple, they have been copying Apple. But with this phone, the Galaxy S8 and the Galaxy S8 Plus, it features a screen that is 83% of the front of the phone. There are no bezels. There are two sizes, a 5.8-inch screen and a 6.2-inch screen. People have seen it, raving about it, but it has a problem. It's Android. And the problem with Android is there's no ecosystem, and it's fragmented. There aren't any software updates. There's no way to keep the operating system modern. This is where Apple is just cleaning up. The Apple ecosystem, from iPhone to iPad to Mac, iCloud, it's incomparable. And that's the thing that's actually keeping Apple customers with Apple. If you wanted to pick one thing, the iPhone, of course, runs circles around Samsung's phones, both in terms of quality and style and operability. There's no question. This one, however, the S8. Remember, the tech media, folks, is like the mainstream media. To the tech media, Apple is the Republicans and Samsung's the Democrats. I mean, Samsung just released a phone last year that exploded. And the media treats it like no big deal. No big deal. Samsung's expected to rebound greatly and royally. And they keep singing the praises of Samsung. Never had a Samsung phone. I've never used Android, so I'm not really equipped to comment on that. If you want one, go get it. There's no accounting for taste. And you like country music doesn't mean you're wrong about anything. If you like classical, doesn't mean you're wrong about it. If you like Chinese opera, doesn't mean you're wrong, just means you're weird. My experience, however, is that Samsung phones, because of the media bias, always arrive heavily promoted, really, really hyped, and something always happens and it fails to realize or meet the hype. Like last year's Samsung Note 7, where the batteries kept exploding. I mean, people's houses ended up on fire while the phones are recharging. The discussion of the S8, though, naturally takes you to the iPhone 8 or whatever they're going to call it. And the rumor mill on that is as it is every year. The phone's going to be late, the phone's delayed, the phone's got problems with this component and that component. The media cannot wait to tell you everything that's going to be wrong with the new iPhone. They can't wait to tell you what's going to be late with the new iPhone, while singing the praises of Samsung so-so phone after Samsung so-so phone. But you have to figure 1 year Samsung may get it right. It is going to appear. Apple's new phone is also going to have a bezel-less screen, so it's going to be mostly screen, but Samsung's is going to hit first. So to the average ordinary consumer, it may look like Apple's copying Samsung this time around, even though that won't be the case. But that's not really the problem. As an Apple devotee, there are things happening there that really alarm me. And they've been happening for a while. And they alarm me both from a consumer standpoint, and if I was an investor, I would really be bothered. Now, I know Apple's making money hand over fist, and there's no end in sight. They keep setting records, and I understand all that. 75% of Apple's revenue comes from the iPhone. But it's little things that bug me. Like last year, the iPhone 7 Plus, the jet black version, you couldn't get one for 2 months. Look at the AirPods. They announced these things in September, say they're going to be available in October. They weren't available until December, and even now it takes 6 weeks to get a pair when you order them. The Apple Watch. They ballyhoo it for a year and a half, promote it, show it, demo it, finally announce it's going to go on sale and be delivered the end of March, and for 3 days it was, and then for 3 months you couldn't find one. The Apple TV. The Apple TV remote is, you lose it in the sofa. You can't tell which end is up or down by virtue of the way it feels. It's too small. The Apple TV is not 4K. They haven't upgraded it to 4K in like 6 or 8 months or maybe even a year. What would it take to make it 4K compatible and say have that available for last Christmas? There haven't been an iPad Pro update in a year and a half, the 12.9 inch. They got hundreds of thousands of employees. I don't understand it. They have these products that they announce, and you can't get them. They can't make in mass quantities what they design for the day that they're going to go on sale, the day they release them. And the Mac Pro, which they've just had a big announcement about, but the Mac Pro is 3 years old and hasn't had a single upgrade. And it got to the point they weren't saying anything about it, and people said maybe they're just going to forget it. And the Pro line, that's not something you have to keep secret. I mean, professional users need their stuff. There aren't any trade secrets here. Samsung doesn't make an equivalent. But the Dell and PC makers are trying to fill the void that the Mac Pro used to fill. Now, they're going to fix it, but they may not have the replacement out until 2018 or 2019. It's just a series of little things that do not make sense to me in terms of availability, upgrades. Apple announced last week a new iPad, which is a low-end entry-level iPad that is a massive improvement. They're trying to goose sales of the iPad, which have slowed down because the iPad's made so well. The people don't recycle them as often as they do the phones. It's understandable too, but I don't know. It worries me. I want Apple stuff because I love it. I want it to be plentiful, and I want them to be able to supply what they say they're going to supply on the date that it's going to be available, and I want it to be the best it can be. I want the stuff to just get so good. It's one of the reasons I'm hating growing. The first time I feel bad about growing old is all the tech I'm going to miss out on. Anyway, let me take one more call before the break. It's Ken in Columbus, Ohio. Great to have you on the EIB network. How are you doing?
Great. Appreciate you taking my call.
You bet.
Long-time listener and very appreciative of how you keep us all informed.
Thank you, sir, very much. It doesn't matter what it is. You are informed if I talk about it here.
I just wanted to make a quick comment. I usually get up in the morning early and always watch a little bit of PMSNBC, but usually I have to turn it off in about 5 minutes because it's, just so one-sided. But today they were extremely appreciative of Trump. They were, even Mika wasn't rolling her eyes. But I just wanted to get your opinion on Scarborough being a Republican and what he did down in Florida. But he had, David Ignatius and had.
What do you mean? What did he?
Down there.
Wait! What do you mean? What he did down in Florida?
As a congressman, with the Rhino when he was down there at that time, but. Today he was just, they were just gushing with praise for what he had,
there are many
last night.
There are many things in the media landscape, many things, and I understand almost all of them. But there are a few that I don't get, and this is one of them. I don't get the interest. I don't get the curiosity. I don't. Your specific question is that you watched Morning Joe today, and they all of a sudden love Trump again because of this attack on Syria.
Right. Usually I watch about 5 minutes and I go switch back to Fox.
Right.
But then, the other day, for example, Mika was on there and she spent half an hour going through all the different polls, and Trump couldn't get reelected as a dog catcher any place in the United States, according to her.
Right.
But today they were just very, very.
My question is, since this stuff obviously pains you, why do you watch it?
Oh, I just like to get a little opinion. I'm kind of hoping maybe that they'll get somebody on there that does speak a little more positive about the presidency and stuff.
I see. Okay. Human nature is a fascinating thing. I mean, you're not the only one. There are people that watch what they don't like all the time, hoping it'll change, or maybe they just they need to be mad, so they watch stuff that makes them mad, knowing it's going to make them mad. I'm going to take the opportunity here to say I got to go to break. This is one of those things. There's no winning for me, no matter what I tell you on this. There isn't. There's no winning. I'm not. He what? He asked me. I didn't hear him say Scarborough. He said Mika this, Mika that, Mika this. I didn't hear him ask me about Scarborough. I didn't hear him mention Scarborough's name. You can't fool me. Now I got an email from somebody saying that I copped out on the answer to the Samsung S8, the Galaxy S. Did I cop out? I'm not going to sit here. If you want one, go get it. I'm not one of these people that cares. I have no idea about this phone. It hasn't been released yet. All I have is Samsung track record history. And based on that, big whoop. But this could be the first one that's different. But if you're into Android and if you like that stuff that's made to order for you, have fun and enjoy it. Not up to me to make you feel guilty over what you buy. I have different concerns. My phone, my company is Apple. And they're not humming on all cylinders right now, and it concerns me. I think if you announce something for sale, it better be there. There's no reason to have to wait 2 months for something they announce is for sale, with as many employees as they've got, as many people they've got in the manufacturing assembly lines. It just doesn't make sense to me. And frankly, I'm getting tired of it. But that's just me. See you Monday.